Welcome to Just Between Uterus, the show that empowers people to take control of their health and wellness. Join us as we explore the latest research, trends, and issues from sexual and reproductive health to mental health and everything in between. We will share our knowledge and insights, and our guests will share their real-life stories about their own gender-specific health experiences.
Whether you're young and just starting to think about your health, a busy parent juggling work and family, an accomplished professional, or mature and navigating menopause and beyond, this podcast is for you. If you have a uterus or know someone with a uterus, this podcast is for you. Tune in each week for practical tips, inspiring stories, and a community of people who are committed to living their healthiest lives.
Created for us,
discussed by us,
for people with a uterus. The information shared on this podcast should not be used in lieu of medical or other healthcare provider advice. Please consult your provider for specific information regarding your pregnancy, postpartum, or other women's and gender-specific healthcare.
Howdy, ladies. How are you guys doing?
Hey,
I'm doing good.
Doing well, thank you.
Oh my goodness, I'm just so excited to delve right into this episode. It's been such a crazy week, but like this is always one of my favorite parts of the week, like when we get together and record. And I don't know, the episodes have just been so good. I'm excited.
I agree. It's just like fun doing this. Like this is just, it is definitely the highlight of the week for sure.
Same.
And it's like that adult time too. Like I know for me, like I have 2 small kids, so it's like, oh my goodness, I get to talk to like other adults and grown-ups, and just love the feedback, like of people listening to the podcast and like how they're feeling it. You know what I mean?
Definitely. Yeah, I have to, like throw myself in another room and pray that my kids stay quiet. I think y'all heard them on a previous episode, but they know now. When the sign goes on the door, they need to be quiet.
It's like an on-air sign.
Yes.
On air.
When we get fancy.
Good. Well, I'm super excited because today's episode, we're really going to focus on respectful care. It is Pride Month. It's June. So happy Pride to all who, participate in Pride and all those of the LGBTQIA plus community.
Yes.
It's kind of like, I kind of feel like when it's like Black History Month, like, of course, you're proud of your history every day of the year, every day of a moment of life. But it's really a time just for celebration, advocacy, visibility, to just spotlight and say like, hey, like this is the history, and just putting that out there.
Yeah.
So today we are really going to spend some time on this episode, really delving deep into support for the LGBTQIA plus community. And when we were getting this episode together, and Tiffany and Courtney can of course speak to this, it's like we were thinking about like what we were going to do, right? How we were going to honor and celebrate Pride, being that we are not members of the community. And we went back and forth, like, should we have a guest? Should we bring a guest on? And ultimately decided that, you know what? We are not going to ask somebody of the LGBTQI plus community to come on our podcast and rehash their, I hate when people do that, like come and rehash your traumas and tell people why you deserve to live and be a person and have equity.
Yeah. Trauma porn.
Yes, very much so. So we are doing our own work. We've done our own research for this episode, and really want to just reiterate that we're not speaking for anyone of the LGBTQIA plus community, but we are going to be speaking to other, again, straight providers like us who are not of the community and teaching us like how to get ourselves together. Because sometimes like you got to get yourself together. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Get yourself together before somebody else does.
Listen, then your feelings going to be hurt, okay? You're going to be crying. I don't know why this happened. Why are they dragging me? Why am I canceled?
Yeah.
So, of course, this is the Just Between Uterus podcast. And Tiffany, I remember when we were like getting everything together, doing everything together, it was really important to assert that like not everyone who has a uterus identifies as a woman or a mother, and things like that. You know what I mean? I know y'all see a lot of that, of course, working in the hospital system and how that kind of fleshes out there.
100%. And it's still new to us, you know, so there's more of a push now for respectful maternity care with various maternal health organizations. And what we're seeing a lot of more, like I've been a nurse 18 years. It probably wasn't until the last, I'd say solid 5 years that I've been seeing a lot more trans men coming in, having babies, you know, a lot more surrogacy. I'll say I saw that probably a lot earlier on, but you know, you just see more what I'll call non-traditional families, maybe non-traditional parents. And so it's important now for people to know, number one, what all this community includes. We need to make sure that we understand the right terminology, that we're using proper pronouns, that we're respecting everyone, whether or not we're a part of the community, whether or not we even believe in or support what's going on with the patients that we take care of. And it doesn't just have to be LGBTQIA. It could be anything, right? Like your patients do not have to share your same beliefs. They don't have to have your same values for you to give them equitable care. Everyone should be treated respectfully, regardless of how they got in that bed, regardless of whether or not they can pay for their stay, regardless of any of that. None of that matters. Leave your thoughts, your beliefs at the door, because none of that matters once you walk in their room. You're just there to care for them and care for them in a respectful manner.
Absolutely.
Yes, yes. And so when we talk about that, all of us work, of course, in, you know, healthcare, allied healthcare for IBCLCs. But when we talk about like the research on reproductive health and parental health, it's so skewed and gendered, like just basic things, you know what I mean? Filling out, you know, intake forms. Like I have people who are like, oh, wow, you have a lot of options on here. Like, yes, because I serve a lot of people. Like a lot of people need help with feeding their children. And so I was doing some research for this, and I noted that approximately 4.5% of adults in the U.S. identify as lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, or queer. And this comes from UCLA's School of Law. They did a survey and research on this, of course. And 4.5% sounds like a tiny number, right? Like, oh, 4.5%. But that is 11.3 million adults, just adults in this country, in the US. And so it's like, oh, 4.5%, but that is a lot of people who need reproductive care.
It is. And I think the stats that you're quoting are actually from 2019.
Yes.
So think about what that number may look like today, with more people being open about their sexual identity, more people deciding to, not deciding to, but, you know, being publicly trans and things like that. There are probably a number of people who would have selected something in 2019 on one of those forms that they actually select differently now. And so I would imagine that number has probably gone up.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Courtney, and I know, so Courtney, how many years have you been an L&D nurse? Because like every year, like when I first met you, it was like, you know, 12, 13, like every year gets more, add on another year. Tell the people again.
Don't tell the people my age now. Well, so I've been a nurse total of 17 years this year. I spent 11 of that actually on the floor as a labor and delivery nurse. And, you know, of course, how we met, I became a lactation consultant. And so through lactation is how Nichelle and I met. But yeah, you know, working in L&D, you see a variety of things. And granted, I have not been working on the floor in the last 5 years. However, you know, my time on the floor, we absolutely had lesbian couples or gay couples, or, you know, like Tiffany mentioned, you know, a surrogate, or, you know, a baby being placed up for adoption. And so, you know, our role in that is to support everyone, not just the birthing person in that bed, whoever they consider family, whoever they consider to be their partner. And we, make sure we give them the same experience. If it is a mom and someone that identifies the mom, and of course, they get to do all the skin to skin, we give the partner the same opportunity to do the skin to skin, or, just ask. And that's really the biggest thing, is ask. There's nothing wrong with asking who is your support people, how do they wish to be identified, and how can we best serve you, how can we care for you, and honor those wishes. It really does not take a whole lot to honor someone's wishes. They are there during the most happiest, and I'm speaking for labor and delivery, they're there, usually one of the happiest, most exciting times of their lives. How easily is it to have that ruined by having a person on the healthcare team that is, just unhelpful, or, downright disrespectful, or, just whatever. It really does not take much to make someone's day and to give them a happy experience for the rest of their life. Like, sure, yes, we do this day in and day out. And, sometimes it can feel like autopilot or just a job. However, though, for the people that we're serving, this is, for some people, once in a lifetime opportunity, or once in a lifetime thing, or, even if it is their second or third or, more baby, it's not like they're here every day. They don't get to do this every day. So, it's really important to make sure you are a positive part of someone's birth story, not adding to their trauma. They come to the hospital, they, bad enough that they get it from the outside world. They shouldn't have to come seeking care or needing care and then also be traumatized. So yeah, it's absolutely important to, just make sure we are asking the right questions and respecting people's wishes.
That's right. And I'll just say this, I'll get it out the way. I think that people's sexual identity, people's choice of who they want to sleep with, who they love, who they're married to, is really none of our business
at all.
I draw the line at pedophiles. Now that we cannot do. You're not gonna have but
absolutely, yes.
Adults want to do whatever it is they want to do, that is their business, and I am not here to pass judgment on them. I am here to give the best possible care for the patient in my care.
Yeah, and you talk a lot about and not you, just people kind of talk a lot about Courtney. I don't know if you remember when who was it, ACOG, that came out with the inclusive care terminology, and the people lost their
lost their minds with all the think pieces, and I don't want to be this, and why do we have to do this? And it was, I had to block a lot of people and leave a lot of groups because of it.
Hey, you don't want to be, but who asked you to be? Like, that's what bothers me. They didn't ask you to marry them. They're not trying to sleep with you. They don't want a relationship with you. Why do you care?
Exactly.
It's so crazy. And I always explain it to people, like, listen, this is adding to your toolbox. We are professionals, especially, we are healthcare professionals, wellness professionals. That is what we should be promoting, health and wellness. And these words are just adding to your toolbox. Okay, it's like a dictionary. Okay, you can say mom, mama, partner, spouse, whatever it is, and allow people to give you their own verbiage for like what they want to be called. I always equate it to, so my husband's name is David. He hates Dave. I mean, he's kind of gotten used to it now that he's older, but he hates when people call him Dave. Like, he just can't stand it. It gets under his skin. And he always say, Dave is my grandfather. And I used to do it annoyingly because I'm a wife and I'm like, hey, Dave. And it just used to get under his skin. But I always, when I'm explaining to my interns and other people that I work with about pronouns, about identity, about being respectful and care, if I'm in a social setting, right, and my husband introduces himself, he says, hi, my name is David. And, somebody else says, oh, okay, Dave. And he says, oh, no, my name is David. I really would like for you to call me David. And they continue to go on and say, okay, Dave, okay, Dave, okay, Dave. That is disrespectful.
It's disrespectful at that point because it's intentional now.
Right. And, it's kind of like if someone's giving you what they want to be called, right, who they are, who are you to tell him no, I'm going to call you Dave. Like, it's crazy to me that people can't understand that basic. And the disrespect that people feel, like he feels like, all right, listen, I done told you my name is David like 2-3 times. At this point, you know, now we have a problem. Now I'm not staying in this social setting. And when it translates to healthcare, it's the exact same thing that happens. People continue to get misgendered. They continue to be disrespected. And they're like, I'm not going to, and I love, Tiffany, how you said serve. I'm not going to allow you to serve me. And I think we really have to start looking at it like that. These people don't have to frequent these hospitals, these clinics, these providers. Like, that is a privilege and an honor to serve people. So like, they're not going to continue to keep frequenting your business and giving, you know, you their dollar bucks if you're going to continue to be disrespectful like that.
And let's take it a step further. If tomorrow David decided, you know what, ever since I was 10, I actually wanted to be named Joseph. I'm going to change my name to Joseph. Who are you to say, I met you as David, I'm going to continue to call you David? No, you're not. You're going to call me what I told you my name is and leave it at that.
Yes.
Exactly. Yes. I got married. My maiden name was Lewis. And then I legally changed it to Clark. And so now that's who I am now. So when I'm entering spaces, hey, Michelle Lewis, that's not my name. That's thank you. Did meet me as Lewis. You know what I mean? Thank you. But now I have changed my email. I have changed my signature block. I have changed the way that I introduce myself in certain settings. You know what I mean? And so I just, again, it boggles my mind that providers do not understand these basic tenets of respect. It's wild to me.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So we've talked a little bit so far about trans people. We've mentioned a few times trans men coming into spaces where people with a uterus might be. What do we know about how many trans people there are in this country?
That is a good question. So I was reading, I know it's lower, obviously, than the 4.5. I think it is, let me look it up. 1.4 million adults. So 0.6% of adults in the US identify as transgender. And again, 0.6% is not a lot, right? Like when you think 100%, 0.6%, but 1.4 million people identifying as trans, and maybe people with uteruses. Is it uteri? Like octopus. Uterus. Y'all know what I mean.
No, yeah, that is a lot of people. That's more people than some, medium to sort of large size cities. So, yeah, we need to cut it out. And if there was only one person in the United States who was trans, like, again, it's all about respecting people. It doesn't matter what the percentage of the population is. It doesn't matter how you feel about what they said. And to be honest, like, saying that I will treat someone with respect and I will call someone by the pronouns they want to be called by doesn't even mean that you agree or because I'll say I'm a Christian woman. All of us are. There are people who will say, well, my faith tells me that this, that, and the other. Your faith doesn't tell you to disrespect people, though.
Absolutely, it does not. Absolutely, it does not.
Yeah, it doesn't matter how you feel about it. Just give people the respect that they deserve simply because they are human. Your faith says, Imago Dei, we're all made in the image of God. So respect.
Yeah. Girl, you in here preaching. And when we talk about too, like lactation, going a little bit deeper into laws and policies that affect these people. So we've talked about there are 1.4 million people who identify as trans. There are 11.3 million people who identify as a member of the LGBTQIA plus community. I always tell people, it's like when we start talking about laws and policies. So for lactation, we have Fair Labor Standards Act, nursing time for breastfeeding moms, right? When we start to talk about policy, this is a federal policy. These millions of people are also in the workforce. And so even some of the laws that are created to help, people with uteruses are still exclusionary to them. It says specifically nursing moms. So if they don't identify as mom, you can have some people who are really jerky who say, hey, you work here, you don't identify as a mom, you want to express milk for your baby, this doesn't apply to you. even when you do like lactation billing and coding, or not just lactation, but like billing and coding, I'm looking for codes, and maybe I'm working with a gay couple, maybe I'm working with a trans couple, and I'm looking at how am I supposed to send this off to the insurance so they understand what I'm trying to say, because all they're doing is looking at a piece of paper. And so you think about how like even the things that the strides and the changes that we have made in the US to be more incorporated, be more inclusive of lactation care, of maternal care, of reproductive care and justice, there are still laws and policies on the books that exclude certain groups of people. And when we say certain groups, these are millions of people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Crazy. Yes. When we talk about like accessibility to care, there was an article that I read. Tiffany, because I know you sent it to me. Which article was that?
So there was an article saying that a recent study, suggests queer people who can get pregnant, so maybe not lesbians, but queer people who, there's a sperm and an egg there, and they're going to get pregnant, are more likely than their straight counterparts to have an unintended pregnancy, and that can be unwanted or mistimed. We categorize unintended pregnancies, pregnancy that results in an adolescent or teen pregnancy, so anyone under 20, or an abortion. And so this suggests that there are structural barriers to contraceptive care and a need for LGBTQIA inclusive, comprehensive sexual education. Like, sexual education is not just for heterosexual people. It is not just for cisgender people. We really need to go back and look at our sexual ed. And this is something that I was really steeped in when I was doing my PhD, because I did something around sexual health. And we need to go back and look at that stuff and look at not only the terminology that we're using, but look at whether or not the programs that we have that are currently available that are backed by the CDC compendium for, I can't think of the whole term right now, but sexual health, essentially, whether or not there are programs in there that can be adapted to different populations, so LGBTQIA population, and that's important. And there's no one size fits all. So the sexual education that works for a 5th grade cisgender girl may not work for a 7th grade homosexual boy. Like, we have to really tailor our education to the proper communities, and just really be culturally sensitive. And we need to look at that, because it doesn't make sense that there are disparities in, what is it again, unintended pregnancy, teen or adolescent pregnancy, and abortion when it comes to people who have maybe non-traditional sexual identities or sexual partners.
Yes, absolutely. And, even when you start talking about that, you think like there is information, like you said, this information is out there, and we're not doing our part to really parse deeper and delve deeper into this and to get this to the people. You know what I mean? Like, we're kind of acting like a lot of it is nonsensical, but even like the straights, like the way we talk about sexual education and like your bodies is just wild to me. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, we know this information is out there. This is misinformation, and especially in the age of TikTok and Instagram and social media.
I just want to know, where are they teaching reproductive health at all? Because, as a labor and delivery nurse, and Tiffany, I'm sure you can attest to this, we get patients all the time that have no clue about their own anatomy. Mm-hmm. And so if you don't even know proper terminology for your anatomy, not to be super vulgar, but people, when it's time to put a Foley catheter in to empty a bladder, and it's like, where's that going to go? Well, how's the baby going to come out? There's another hole down there. I mean, it's just simple things like that I think is being missed. And it's unfortunate now that, we have governors and states creating laws against even educating people. That's all that people are asking for, is just basic education, inclusive education. But here we are, now we have politicians saying, no, you can't say that, you can't say that, you can't tell them that. So how will they learn? And that's, that was always baffling to me, is that we have grown adults having babies that don't know basic anatomy. And, you know, Nichelle, you know, I'm really big and into natural family planning, which we have an episode coming up on that. But why don't people know this? Why isn't this common knowledge? You know what I mean? Like, yes, everything doesn't work for every person, but it should be common knowledge on how to prevent a pregnancy that, you know, that you want to put off for later, or, to prevent the unintended pregnancies. It's just, it's baffling the amount of people that are just left in the dark.
Mm-hmm. You said, you know, where is this being taught? I tell you, certainly not in the state of Texas. We don't have comprehensive sex education out here, but we should, because we have one of the highest adolescent pregnancy rates. I just, you know, it bothers me because a lot of people feel like, well, if you talk about it, then they're going to go out and do it. That is not true. We know that the age for initiation of sexual intercourse at this point, or, you know, the age at which young people become sexually active, is actually getting higher. So people are waiting longer to even begin having sex. Teaching someone about their body, teaching someone about how to prevent STDs or STIs, how to prevent pregnancy, does not necessarily cause them to want to go out and do it.
How their body works, you know.
Yeah.
And we've all seen statistics that abstinence only education does not work.
We know that. We've known that forever. And if you really think about it, there is an age at which, just because of the way we're made and our hormones work, we start to get curious about certain things. You're less likely to go out and do stuff if you actually know how it works than to try to go out there and figure it out on your own. And again, these conversations should not just be for heterosexual children. The conversation should not just be about sexual activity between heterosexual people. We have to be a lot more inclusive.
Yeah. Yes. That can be a whole other episode in itself on that's a whole other show. So please stay tuned and follow us and come back for that, because we will definitely have to delve deeper into that subject. But getting back to the topic, and, you know, being that it's Pride Month, there's, you know, when we are disrespectful to people, when we don't respect their wishes and their choices, and provide them quality care regardless of their sexual preference or sexual identity, that can also lead to adverse health outcomes, right? They may fear going to the doctor. So here is a person that may not, you know, be in the majority, feeling excluded, feeling judged. And so now when they do need health care, they're not going to come. They're not going to go. You know, I have the privilege of sitting on, Texas has what's called the Fetal Infant Mortality Review Board. And so we review fetal deaths that occur either prenatally or soon after. And we try to identify a root cause. And in a lot of these cases, these, you know, people were late getting prenatal care or got no prenatal care at all. And, you know, we can all speculate as to the reasons that is, but if people don't feel heard, people aren't respected, people don't feel safe, they are not going to come to us for care. And then what's the alternative? We have, you know, babies dying. We have unhealthy pregnancies. I mean, preterm births, you know, the list can go on and on and on. So it goes beyond just the person, you know, once they're in labor and delivery, it's all the lead up before then, even when they're not pregnant. You know, you go to your general practitioner and, you know, just for a regular checkup, you should be honest. It should be a safe enough space to be honest about your health, you know, what's going on with your health, your lifestyle choices. But if I don't feel safe and I don't feel comfortable with you, I'm not going to be honest, which again can lead to adverse health outcomes. So, you know, it's bottom line. It's imperative. It's necessary. You have to give people, you have to treat people with respect. What your preferences is, what, what my beliefs, it does not matter. That it does not matter it at all.
That's right. And it is more than just about pregnancy, like you said before. There are people, I think about this a lot because I used to work in an OBGYN outpatient clinic, and there are trans men who maybe don't want to come in because the providers don't quite understand, or they feel judged, or what have you. Hey, a lot of them still have a uterus. They are still at risk for cervical cancer. They are still at risk for, different things that we have to look at. There are also, on the other side, there are trans women who may set up appointments to see a GYN provider or OB provider because they feel more comfortable going to that provider, walking in to be seen. But at the same time, they still have a prostate. They still need to be checked for these types of things. And we just need to be comfortable recognizing that there may be someone sitting in front of us that appears to be what we consider to be a woman or a man, but their sexual or their sexual identity based on, how they were born and what their chromosomes say is different. And we just kind of have to get over it.
Yeah.
Again, it's not for us to judge, it's for us to keep people healthy.
We just had the preeclampsia episode, and it's kind of like, are these conversations being had? You know what I mean? Like, there are specific conversations that have to be had to keep people safe, to keep people alive. And when we allow our biases, like, that puts up that wall right there, right? Are we talking to them about preeclampsia, eclampsia? I had no idea that postpartum, eclampsia was a thing. Like, I just thought you went home from the hospital and you were safe. And so are we having these conversations with people in order to keep not just them alive, but these children alive? So, on me, for the lactation portion of it, I'm thinking like, wow. And my intake is very comprehensive. I ask a lot of questions. I ask about any medications, any, that could include hormone treatments, how the baby was conceived. Was it IVF? Was it surrogacy? Who was the gestational parent? Things like that to help me better assist the families with feeding. But again, when you don't have these questions, when you're not asking these questions, now you're not just playing Russian roulette with the birthing person's life, but you're playing Russian roulette with an infant's life who has just no idea of nothing that has happened, all because a provider decided to put up that bias wall, to not ask these questions, to not have these conversations with their clients. It boggles my mind, and it creates the unsafe space. Like, it creates a hostile environment sometimes for parents. I tell people this all the time. When you're giving your client, you have to have trust. And when you're giving your clients and your patients resources and references, the worst thing you can do as a provider is to send your clients into a hostile environment. Yeah. We have, Courtney and I, we have the breastfeeding group that we run online, and we actually have a trans person in the group. And there was like some conversations about like, how did this happen? Because it's Black Breastfeeding Mamas Circle, right? And the person felt comfortable enough to join a group that had mamas in it. So like, hey, absolutely. And it's just like, should this person not receive breastfeeding education? Should they not receive breastfeeding care? And for me and Courtney, it was really like, Courtney can tell you, it was a fight. It was a knockdown, drag out, like, and one of the other admins is an attorney, right? So we sit here like, did y'all say this right now? Like, this is not a conversation that we can have or are going to have as providers, providing, equitable care and inclusive care for everyone. Like, we not, so what can we do? Can we remove the person out of the group? Can we quietly remove them? Can we, what was some of the other stuff, Courtney? Slow down the post and like,
or mute them. Yeah, it was, yeah.
And they didn't know until the person said, hey, I prefer he, him pronouns and papa instead of mama. And so it was like, oh, okay. I think I was the person who responded to the comment. And I was like, oh, okay, bet, let me edit it and then continue to go on about my business with my free breastfeeding advice. And it became this thing like, oh, and I was like, this person's been in the group for over a year. Like, none of you were the wiser. And here was this person, again, just gleaning this information, getting the information they needed. And for a year, didn't bother any of you, didn't click on the profile to see anything. The conversation was great. Everybody was respectful. And now, because this person has felt comfortable, and that was kind of my thing, like, this person felt comfortable enough to say this here, because a lot of spaces people don't feel comfortable.
That's right.
You around a bunch of straight women and it's mama, mommy this, da-da-da-da-da, which is fine. But this person, and for me, it was like, this person felt comfortable enough to put themselves on blast, knowing, the climate of the group, and y'all are about to, or attempting to, or considering doing the very thing that they receive everywhere else. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's just, it's crazy. And
just think about like the mental health. And when we're talking about physical health and, with the preeclampsia and not getting, going to a provider and seeking care, but just think about what that has to be like mentally, and how mental health suffers because you always have to be on guard. You always have to wonder, am I going to be attacked? Am I going to be listened to? Am I going to be respected? I mean, that's gotta be tough. And so as providers, I just can't imagine being the one to add to someone's mental load. Like, if the world treats you crazy, the hospital or the doctor's office should be the one safe space, right? That should be the one place people can come to and get respectful care and be respected. Tiffany, I know, you've seen a lot too. What are, in your opinion, what are some things that providers do to create unsafe spaces?
I think not having inclusive language. So even inclusive language in our educational material, in the signs that we may have on the walls, just, things like that. Also, this was a mistake I made, right? So one of the things we can do that can cause people to feel unsafe is to make assumptions about who they are or what type of relationship they're in. I'll give a quick example. I once had a colleague who was undergoing IVF, and it was very, it was common knowledge among all the colleagues that this person was undergoing IVF, and we're all rooting for her and like, yeah, we hope this works. And so I was having a conversation with her, and I was like, yeah, girl, be careful, because sometimes after IVF, your body just turns on and you'll mess around and get pregnant again, not even trying to. Like, for some reason, it just, I don't know what it is, but your body wakes up and says, all right, let's have babies now. And so I was like, yep, just, get that good birth control and just be careful after this first one. And she was like, nah, it'll never happen. And I was like, girl, you never know. And she kept saying, it'll never happen. And I was like, you just got to have faith. I mean, I'm just going all in, right? Mm-hmm. And she was like, Tiffany, my husband is trans. It will never happen. And I was like, yo, my bad. Like, I didn't know. I'm so sorry. And I apologized to her over and over again. And she was like, it's okay. You didn't know. Like, it's cool. And I said, no, you know what? That's my fault, because I made the assumption that you were married to a cisgender man, not a trans man. And I just shouldn't have pushed it that far. Like, I should have let it go. And I apologize. And it made me think about how often I just make the assumption that, first of all, I just make the assumption that people are heterosexual. That is not always true. And then I make the assumption that because I'm looking at their spouse and their spouse appears to be, the gender that society has said you should be based on what you look like, that that's what gender they are, and that might not be true. So just being open to people, asking people, not making assumptions, I think is really important as providers to make sure that folks feel safe.
Yeah. And we always kind of tell people, I always say in my trainings, in my educational offerings, I'm telling you what not to do. So let me give you a little bit of tips what to do. Birthing person is everybody and anybody, right? And your support person. As a straight person, I remember going through like my, pregnancy with my son, and my husband really feeling like they didn't even acknowledge that he was a part of this thing that was happening, right? So, non-gestational parent, like there's, you can always say that. And that's really a good terms for when I use it lactation, like, okay, so who's a gestational parent? And so that kind of lets me know. Tiffany, just kind of like you said with assumptions, like I'll never forget when I was doing my clinical rotation for lactation, went into the room and there was a lesbian couple and they had just had a baby. It's beautiful, corny, just like you said, it's like the best time of their lives. But like we all know postpartum can be a thing on your body, hormonals, mentally, emotionally. And so they bliss, right? Just in heaven. And the IBCLC that I was shadowing made the assumption that the gestational parent was going to be the parent that was human milk feeding. And I'll kind of get to some terms about feeding preferences, but there was this conversation, and this IBCLC is so sweet. Again, like you said, well-meaning, went down this road. Hey, how you doing? This, that, and the third. Let me show you. And she kind of got to the point where, like, would you like me the whole time? Moms are holding the baby and kind of going back and forth because we were in there for a while, loving on their baby. And she's like, let me show you about latching. And the gestation parent was like, oh, no, that's not my bag. I'm not doing that. And so it was kind of like this little, moment. And the non-gestational parent was going to be the parent that was providing milk for the baby. So, you know what I mean? It's just kind of like, and was going to be inducing lactation or relactating. And so again, like not making those assumptions and just asking like, okay, bet we're here to feed a baby today. How are we going to do that? I ask people all the time, how are you intending to feed? And this can be universal. This is, heterosexual, not heterosexual questions. How are you intending to feed the baby? Like you said, I allow people to give me the verbiage. So, okay, how are we feeding the baby? I'd say breastfeeding because for me, that's what it is. But some people may prefer chest feeding. I know have colleagues who prefer to say human milk feeding, or if I'm talking about maybe giving baby a bottle or cup feeding, human milk feeding. It includes everything, right? If I say human milk feeding, hey, how you doing? Okay, so we're going to be feeding this baby today. How are we doing this? This allows and opens that door when we talk about providers for the families and the people to give you the language that they want. And if you open the door, people will do it.
Absolutely.
I'm telling you, like I have LGBTQIA plus friends, family, people I meet, clients that I work with. And when you open that door to allow them, right, to narrate their own story, because that's what it feels like when we start doing it for them, we're narrating their own story. And that's not our story to tell. Open that door. They will give you the keys. They'll give you the answers. Like I'm always perplexed when other people are perplexed. So I'm like, all you have to do is ask them. I promise you, they'll tell you. Like, I promise you, you know what I mean? And then boom. And even if you forget, Courtney and I have a friend, Brenna, who uses they pronouns. And, I'm talking to my husband and we've known them for a while and we met them as she. And so it's very easy. So I was just like, such and she, and I was like, oh my gosh, and they were like, so gracious with me. I understand that it is a process for you. So I understand, but you're at least making an attempt. Yeah. Again, to let me control my narrative. And I think that's so important.
Yeah, we do that, and I know I'm, it takes, not that it takes me a while, but I forget sometimes too. And I, say she or, and then immediately it's like I'm so sorry. And, Brenna is more than gracious and, will correct us and, oh yeah. And, we just take the correction and roll with it and continue on with the conversation, right? It doesn't have to be a big thing. Again, it gets disrespectful when their preferences are ignored and it continues and it gets to a point where it's on purpose, right? Yeah. Another thing I really have to be mindful of, and I caution people to just watch what they say, is especially when you have like a same-sex couple, giving one person, let's say it's two lesbians, right? One is the birth parent, and then the other one, the partner did not give birth to the baby. But then it's like, here's the other mom. Other mom. Like, no, they're both mom. Like, we don't need to other them. You know what I mean? In that situation, like they're not other. This is one mom, and here's, I won't say the other mom, but here's also mom.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
I don't want to be the other mom. Even if we're talking about my husband and I, right? He's a parent. I'm not just, here's the other parent. No, like we both have titles. Like, let's call them, by the titles that they want to be called and not other people. It just feels like less than or not as important. No, this baby and this child has two parents, mom and mom, the end, or dad and dad, the end. So it doesn't have to, we just have to be mindful of how we're addressing people, beyond just the pronouns and titles. Like, don't assign other,
right,
to one person or the other.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. And again, we talked about kind of like causing harm, but also don't be the person who perpetuates the harm. You know what I mean? Because when we talked about being corrected, being, people asserting their boundaries with you, don't make it a thing. You don't have to make it a thing. It's never a thing. And I think well, I know for a fact, just with talking with my family and friends of the LGBTQIA plus community, if I correct you, I've correct you. If I am upset and I need to share that with you, I will do that with you. But when it becomes a thing like, oh my God, Brenna had to correct me. They had to tell me over and over and over again. Oh my gosh. And now you've put the emotional load and labor on them to explain it to you. Like, no, I'm not here. You, may have offended me, and now I'm being put in a position to make sure that you are okay. Like, absolutely not. Full stop. Don't do that. And that again perpetuates that's the harm, that trauma porn, like we talk about. Yes. So absolutely. Yeah, go ahead.
And I was just gonna say, it's one way that we as heterosexual people or societally normative people, whatever you want to call us, sort of insert ourselves, right? Like, for instance, even using the term LGBTQIA, you think about, well, what does that term mean? Lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, intersex, and not ally, not advocate, asexual, right? So it's this thought of like, here you hetero or sexually normative people go trying to insert yourself again. Cut it out with the heterosexual supremacy. It's not about you. You are not a part of this community. Stop trying to make yourself a part of this community. Like, allyship is very important, but that is not what the A in LGBTQIA stands for. Cut it out.
Listen, just because you go to Target and get you a Target Pride shirt during Pride Month does not make you an ally.
Listen, I was just about to say, allyship cannot be performative, and it feels like, just because it's Pride Month, if you haven't done anything all year, please also sit this month out. Like, it's okay. It's okay to not, it's okay to sit this one out. It just feels. Sometimes when you look at people and what they're posting and what they posted all year, like, please stop jumping on this bandwagon because it's cool now. Same like when George Floyd was killed. Then you had all these businesses and people putting on kente cloth. Like, please stop it. Please stop it. Please take that flag off of your car, because stop it. Like, this is not like a trend and a bandwagon thing for you to jump on. You know what I mean? Like, you can support and not be performative.
Yeah.
And the way to support is all year long.
Stay home. Don't nobody need you at the gay pride parade. Sit down. Stay home.
We'll be back to being harmful and causing trauma on July 1st. Like, I mean, they don't even have like all the flags not even down yet. Like, we haven't even cleaned up from the parade yet, and you back to being problematic. Like, it's crazy to me. And on this point, because I said this the other day, we have a good friend. Her name is Ia Mystique. Their name is Ia Mystique. They go by they and her. She sounds it. But they were talking about, now we're gearing up for here we go, right? Like, people of the community are bracing themselves for just the chaotic that the straights be doing. They're just so chaotic. We problematic. But if you are going to post about Pride Month, companies, businesses, people who buy blue checks, whoever it is that you are, let me tell you something. Monitor your own comment section. Nothing pisses me off more than that. Oh, you want to post your pride stuff, and then you off in La La Land, running through Target, getting you some more pride flip-flops. And the people in your comment sections is in shambles. And you got people of the community trying to combat that stuff and sitting there and explaining to it, like, absolutely not. That is, like you say, sit it out, okay? Just don't even make the post, because again, now you're putting the emotional labor back on people of the community that you're supposed to be celebrating to sit around and deal with this chaos in your comments. And then you want to make some blanket statement. Oh, we support and we promote. Prove it. Show it. That is how you be an ally, not putting the flag up on your website for 30 days. Not, going out and buying one and putting it out in front of your office, putting it back in the closet, and it collect dust and you pull it out next May 30th. So put it up. This is how you show real allyship. This is how, this is where you show up right here every single day.
Yeah, for all these businesses that say, we're allies and we support gay pride and whatever else it is they want to say. How many of your employees feel comfortable being openly whatever it is that they are? LGBTQI or A or plus.
That is a good question.
And those are the things you have to ask. I see things all the time and I'm like, yo, did they have a person from the community on this committee before they decided to put this out? Because this is just straight ignorance. Like, it happens. I notice it mostly, when it happens to people in the African-American Black community, or like things that happen around Black History Month, just because I'm Black. So I tend to pay, a little bit more attention. But when you put things out, like, I think Target just had to pull some stuff back. Like, did you ask before you decided that you were going to market this? Did you ask somebody if it would be offensive, if what you're doing is just plain silly and you need to cut it out? Like, we really need to do that.
And not that one token person that because that's another thing. Like, get you a focus group of people from the community. And if you are in a space where you can't do that, where you feel like, oh, I don't know enough people, or I don't feel comfortable enough, or people don't feel comfortable enough coming on the board to my company, that's a problem. And that's your problem. That's not their problem. That's your problem. So figure out how to fix it the other 300 and whatever days of the year it is before we get here to Pride Month, and you start putting that back on the people of the community. And like, even with us, Courtney, I know, because we're both in lactation, us and our problematic colleagues, how do we really kind of like navigate the problematic colleagues? Because we all have them. We all have them.
To be honest, I don't even know. I mean, it's almost like you wish they would just put a sign on their website and say, hey, don't come here. Because, it's in now, it's cool now, it's cool to be on the bandwagon. So they feel like they have to be on the bandwagon and get these clients, but then they mistreat them or, treat them like a bingo card. We had one colleague that posted, I got the bingo card, gay, lesbian, Black, this, that, a bingo card. You're talking about people that you're serving is a bingo card. That was just,
and she was so proud. She was so proud.
Yes, she was so happy. Yeah, she was very happy to get bingo that day. She got bingo. And so, yeah, I think it just takes, and I hate the term call out because it can feel so negative sometimes when you say call them out, but you can call them in, right? Hey, Tiffany, what you posted wasn't cool. And maybe you don't even have to do it publicly, right? You can DM them, pull them to the side. Listen, I think you need to go back to such and such and apologize. At bare minimum, take that down. And here's why. But don't leave it up to the people in the community that they've harmed to go fight them, to go do the call outs, because then it just comes off as aggressive and arguing. And whoever changes their mind over an internet argument, right? Nobody. Yeah. But it takes, like-minded people and true allyship to pull your friend to the side, pull your sister to the side, pull your cousin, your brother, whoever, and say, hey, that wasn't cool. I value true friendship, right? Nichelle and I go back and forth all the time. Listen, you said no, ma'am. Tiffany and I have had a spat or two, before, and I appreciate that because I am not perfect. I'm learning. I'm growing every day, and who wants amens all the time? I want people to check me if I'm getting out of line, and of course, depending on who the messenger is, it's coming from a place of love. Yeah. And so I receive that message when, hey, Courtney, that's not right. And so the same thing, for your friends, when you see them posting stuff out of line, saying stuff out of line, don't just let that fly and leave it up to somebody else to call that out. Hey, bring them to the side and say, hey, look, that's not right. You need to go apologize.
That's right. Don't be a silent bystander. Don't be complacent, because that makes you complicit. Like, just don't do it.
Can't ride shotgun to bigotry now. Can't be it. And a lot of people are comfortable riding shotgun. Hey, well, I didn't say it. Me and Tiffany, we thick as thieves, and Tiffany say something out of pocket, and I don't check it. I am liking and laughing the post and kiki hee hee ha ha. No, I didn't say it, but I'm very cool, and complacent to just ride shotgun. And I'm riding shotgun to whatever it is, whether it's bigotry, racism, whatever the case may be. And like Courtney said, we always talk about, when we talk about people of color, it's like, okay, when we talk about ending racism, people of color didn't start the system and systemic oppression and racism. So why would it be on them to dismantle it? It's the same concept of that. Like, okay, this bigotry, this, just visceral hate, that happens, that makes people so mad that they decide that they're not going to service people because of their identity or whatever. Like, that didn't start with those people. Okay. So if you have those people around you, it is up to the straights to check your straight friends. Like,
yes,
you got to do it, because that's the only way it's going to happen. You have to check them or it's not going to happen. And when you don't check them, like we said, you riding shotgun, period.
Yeah, absolutely. Tiffany, I know you do a lot of work and have some initiatives around respectful care. Do you want to share some of those?
Sure. So one of the things I started doing recently was speaking more openly about A1's Respectful Maternity Care Program. So A1 is the Association for Women's Health, Obstetric and Neonatal Nurses, organization that I've been a part of for a really, really long time, and love the things that we've done in the past. But I love even more that we're now starting to step into a place of encouraging diversity, equity, and inclusion. And A1 came out with this Respectful Maternity Care Program, which I'm going to read it directly from their website. It is an approach to care that emphasizes the fundamental rights of women, newborns, and families. It says that attitudes and behaviors of healthcare providers are entrenched in cultural norms, and implicit and explicit bias may cause unintended harm during patient interactions. These factors may lead to harmful consequences and place patients at greater risk for not receiving appropriate attention to address individual concerns or quality of care, specifically in the intrapartum and postpartum periods. And so at A1, one thing that we've been saying as it relates to respectful maternity care is that we need to respect every patient, every interaction, every time. So the Respectful Maternity Care Program is actually something that's supposed to be implemented. Like, it's not an educational program. There are actually 10 steps to respectful maternity care. So much like 10 steps to becoming a baby-friendly hospital, or 10 steps to breastfeeding, there are 10 steps to respectful maternity care. There's a whole program and implementation toolkit that you can use. And I love this program because it's not about implicit and explicit biases that you think you might have. It really gets into, how's your system set up? What do your policies look like? Is there inclusive language? Is there respectful language in your policies? Are you providing education to all staff members, not just nurses, but the physicians, the APPs, all the staff? It really digs in deep. So if you're doing this work right, it's not going to be done overnight. It's going to take a while, depending on how large your facility is and the different processes that you have to go through to get like policies approved and things like that. It could take a year, it might take longer, but I think that this is an amazing first step to getting people to really think about the systemic effects of disrespect and inappropriate, inequitable care, and to really correct those wrongs. Another thing that I recently started, and I can't wait till I finish, is Family to Family, or the Family to Family Network, I think they're called, Family to Family Support Network, now has a respectful, equitable care certification. So much like you can become certified in inpatient obstetrics or
fetal monitoring or something.
A ton of different things. They have this 2-year certification. So there's 8 modules that you go through, you have to take, and they cover everything from like LGBTQIA care to our own implicit biases, and they just run the gamut. Respectful care while addressing implicit biases, respectful care addressing maternal morbidity and mortality with an anti-racism approach. Hey, now they cover the gamut. And once you get done, you have this certification for 2 years. I love this. I'm in the middle of completing this process. I think that it's an amazing first step to showing, like, putting your money where your mouth is, right? We say we want to be diverse, equitable, and inclusive, but are we really doing the things that make us that way? And is it about, like you talked about, performative allyship, or are we really in this thing? And yeah, I just think these are ways to show that you are, I won't use the term culturally competent, because I really don't like that term. Like, how are you competent in somebody else's culture?
Right.
Cultural humility, right? Showing that, hey, I don't know it all. I want to learn. Please teach me. And so, yeah, I love these two programs. I think they're
it. That sounds amazing. Oh my gosh. Where was that 17 years ago when I started?
Let me forward that over to IBLC and some of the other organizations. LER and
stories I could tell. Oh my God.
Yes, because we about to get into this tea time, and let me tell y'all. Oh my gosh. Okay.
Let me get my cup.
Let me settle in. Okay.
I have a Starbucks mug, but
yes. Listen, I got my water bottle over here, okay? Because the tea is piping hot, but so a couple, I want to say it was maybe a little over a year ago now. Courtney and I have this initiative called Black Breastfeeding 365. And what we really strive to do is to bridge the gap between families of color and the providers that service them. So there is maybe at present 2,200 Black IBCLCs in the United States, right? That's a great number. But even if we all had fully packed schedules, we couldn't possibly see everybody who possibly wanted to see us, right? So there is some teaching that has to happen so that our colleagues who are not of the community don't continue to perpetuate harm, right? So we did this thing, and we, Levy, believe her last name is Smith. Levy Smith had this initiative called Share the Mic Now. And so what we did was we, reached out, they were great with it, and we adapted it for Black Breastfeeding Week. And so we had a bunch of just platforms, people, different companies, whatever, who were going to let Black lactation professionals take over their platform for the week and just promote, Black Breastfeeding Week. It was amazing. It was so good. There were about 4 of us, and we had like 15 people who said, like, you could do this on our platform. So cool. So we did interviews for volunteers, and we had people come on, and they were like, yeah, like, I want to, be down with it, whatever. Cool beans. We did that. It was great. Couple months later, we're in like a lactation group, and I see one of the people who had volunteered posting the most bigoted stuff I had probably seen on the internet that week. I mean, it's Facebook, so take it as a grain of salt. But it was so crazy, and it was inside of a private group, and this person felt very comfortable being bigoted inside this space. And you ever seen that meme where it'd be like the person posts, and then like this is like what the group doing, and like they beating a person with a brick, because it did not go over well. It was not what she thought it was going. It didn't give what she thought it was going to give. And she was basically like, I'm not supporting the LGBTQIA plus community. I am not seeing these people in my practice. This, that, and the third, yada 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 yada. And she really thought that was going to sit right. And we came back and was like, absolutely not, and she was just like, well, if I offended anybody who's of that community, and was basically saying like, I know y'all married to men, so I know y'all the straights, like, what did y'all talk about? And it was very much like, I don't care. Like, you don't see how wildly inappropriate and harmful this is, and you have a lactation practice at this, point. Like, absolutely not. I don't trust sending my LGBTQIA plus clients to you. I don't even trust sending my straight ones to you now. Like, if this is where you at, because who knows, you know what I mean, where your mind is going to take this. I mean, it was so wild. We ended up taking her stuff down, like she did with the initiative. We sent an email to the organization so that they were aware. Nothing that she posted during that time was, and that was my whole thing. Like, so you was real cool to participate in this initiative and, get these brand partnerships and get these people's dollar bucks, right? Because you all down. And then this is what you're going to post. You don't think that there are Black LGBTQIA plus people who celebrate Black Breastfeeding Week? Like, you was real cool with that? Absolutely not. And it's so funny because I say anytime, or if her name ever comes up in any room that I am in, it's absolutely no for me, because I keep screenshots for forever. Okay, I be sipping tea. My tea be old. Like, let me go get this tea from out the freezer. I deep froze the tea. Okay, heat it up. Absolutely not. She won't work again in any spaces that I am. Absolutely not. And that's what it takes. If that's what it got to be, if that's how I have to be for the rest of my career in lactation, every time this person's name come up and I bring up this story from 2021, they be like, Michelle, that was 20 years ago. Well, I hope she's still not bigoted 20 years later.
Yeah. Learned. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And just because here's the thing, like for us, it's a job. We do it all the time. It might become mundane. It might become routine. This is people's lives, right? People will remember this for the rest of their lives. The trauma that we cause, that we perpetuate, or worse, initiate with people isn't going anywhere. They're going to remember this. They're going to be impacted by this for a very long time. And so those people, I like how you said, Courtney, instead of calling them out, they need to be called in. But we need to do something. We cannot be silent and let people run amok and act a fool when other people's lives are hanging in the balance.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. That was wild to see. Like, you are this comfortable. Yes, it's a private Facebook group, but it's still, you put this on the internet, like you typed this out, proofread it, and hit send anyway. Yeah, no, ma'am.
You have to hold this L. Like, you have to hold this one, because no. It's wild. But, like, people feel empowered to be bigoted and to be hateful when nobody's saying anything. Like, I remember the post went up. And it was there for a while before anybody really saw it. And it was like, I was kind of that person like, oh, nobody else gonna jump in? Oh, okay. Oh, everybody, I must be up early because my kids is up early. It's 6:00 in the morning. My thumbs is going. But like you said, you perpetuate harm when you don't say anything. And how could I call myself an ally, right? How could I say, oh yeah, I'm absolutely an ally when, again, this is happening right in front of my face and I'm just gonna allow it to go unchecked?
Absolutely. And I'll say it again and again and again. Even if you don't consider yourself an ally, these are human beings. Mm-hmm. We are all human and we all deserve to be treated with respect, period. Like, unless you are out here breaking the law, doing something that, and let's be clear, not even all laws are okay, right? So let's just say that. But unless you're doing something that is reprehensible, like, let people live and treat people like the human beings that they are. We all deserve love. We all deserve support. We all deserve grace and mercy when we slip up. Like, we deserve it all. And so we can't just be out here treating people like animals.
Mm-hmm. Period. The end. Episode over. That
was it. The end. Wrap it up. It's really great. And I love that we can kind of have these conversations and be transparent. We're not perfect by any means, in any sense of the word, like no matter what the topic is or walk of life. But I definitely am really glad that we were able to just sit down and have these conversations. And we'll be continuing the conversation. You know what I mean? Like, let's continue this conversation over Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and LinkedIn and wherever we're at. And just know that, like, if you get out of pocket, my block game is strong. Okay. Okay. So hope that Michelle's not running the page that day because I'm a little spicy sometimes. But let's definitely continue this conversation. If you guys, listen to the episode and you have any thoughts or anything like that, feel free. Like, we are open, communication is the way that we kind of dismantle some of these issues and make it not so much of an issue. And I would hope that the conversation is being continued by other heterosexual cisgender people out here doing the work and not putting that load on the members of the LGBTQIA plus community. I want to circle back and say again, Sue, that we are not speaking for anyone of the community, right? We are not.
And say that we are not speaking for anyone.
We are giving our cisgender straight lens from our professional and personal experiences and how we navigate life. But even then, not being a member of the LGBTQIA plus community, we can see with our own eyeballs and hear with our own ears that some of the stuff is out of pocket and know how to go forward and make change. So we just want to wrap it up. Ladies, do you have any other takeaways? I'm super excited about this episode.
Yeah, I think this was great. I wish more heteronormative, cisgender, heterosexual, whatever you want to call us, people would do things like this, because you don't have to try to fit in with the community to respect the community.
Amen.
We should have, like, RESPECT. Find out what it means to me. That should be our outro music this week. That's bottom line. Respect. And I don't have to like you. I don't have to know you. I don't have to, agree with you. I don't have to do anything. You don't have to do any of that for me. Bottom line is respect. Lauryn Hill said it best. Respect is just the minimum. That's it. That's it.
Okay. Look, you telling your own age. I'm just kidding. I'm just joking. I had to think about what song is that?
Let's tag Lauren, see if she's listening.
Well, we just want to sign out with a very happy Pride Month to those who celebrate. We're wishing you nothing but just the best. Hopefully you have a great time, safety, because I call them the Straits. I'm from Maryland, so I'm from right outside of Chocolate City. So we call them the Straits. The Straits is wild and weird. But just praying for safety and hope that you guys have a great time and enjoy your Pride Month. And I will not be buying a Target shirt this year. Not that I buy one any year, but I just wanted to let y'all know that my allyship extends further than that. Awesome. Well, we will talk to you guys soon. See you guys for the next episode.
Bye. Thank you for listening.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Just Between Uterus podcast. Please like, subscribe, and share with your friends.
We want to hear from you. Follow us on social media at Just Between Uterus.
And email us at info@justbetweenuterus.com.
Bye.
Bye.
Don't put that in there. Don't put that in there.